Isaiah 38. On the program yesterday, we saw that God not only answered the prayer of Hezekiah. He said, I have seen thy prayers, I have heard thy prayer, I have seen thy tears. Behold, I will add unto thy days 15 years. But he also gives a further promise. And I will deliver thee and this city out of the hand of the king of Assyria, and I will defend this city. That king of Assyria would have been Sennacherib, the Assyrian. You remember the tremendous threat that was made. In fact, the 10 northern tribes went away into Assyrian captivity and bondage. There is no conceivable way that the 2 southern tribes of Judah could have ever withstood an attack or an onslaught from Assyria, from the king of Assyria. They'd have never been able to defend themselves in such an attack. But God came to their aid. God came to their rescue. And the Lord promised them that I will defend this city. Now, I recognize the matter of human responsibility, and I think that many of us could certainly do more than we are currently doing. And I do think that man has responsibility, a personal responsibility in his life and in his conduct to do everything he possibly can so far as the will of God is concerned, or in the matter of defending himself, or in the matter of doing that which is right. But in the final analysis, God is our refuge. The Lord is the high tower that we run into. Now, I don't think that you ought to be flippant or lazy and say, well, the Lord will work it out. I really don't care what happens. The Lord will work it out. I don't think that's the right attitude. But when you and I have done everything we possibly can do, and the circumstance is bigger than we're able to handle, and the difficulty is more extreme than we're able to deal with, at that point the Lord will come to our side. The Lord will be our protector, and the Lord will be our defender in such a time as that. I will defend this city. Many of my listeners across the network, and you know who you are, and I know who you are because you write to me. I have many elderly listeners that hear the Bright Spot Hour, and I receive letters from them here in the upstate of South Carolina, and some up around Stoneville, North Carolina, Danville, Virginia, up that way towards Martinsville. And we have a number of listeners at WCLW that hear the program. And then I have listeners down at PIP. And, you know, the years begin to catch up with you, and you begin to fret and worry. But I promise you that the Lord, who has not forsaken you to this point, is not going to ever forsake you in the days to come. And when the circumstance in your life gets to the point that you're not able to marshal the defense that you would like to make, I would remind you that the Lord promises, I will defend this city. I will defend this city. Now, verse number 7, and I dealt with the matter of the sign. Let's look at Isaiah's recounting of what we read in 2 Kings 20. And this shall be a sign unto thee from the Lord, that the Lord will do this thing that he hath spoken. Now, Hezekiah is a Jew, and Paul the Apostle states that the Jews require a sign. I think it'd be a sin for Gentiles to be consumed with the matter of sign-seeking and sensationalism. You and I are to take God at his word. We're to believe God for what God has said. I'm to take God at his word at face value. But the Jew, again, the Jews require a sign, and God granted signs unto them, and I'm not going to fault the Jew for his Jewishness and his desire for signs. The Lord says, I'm going to give Hezekiah a sign. Here's the sign. Behold, I will bring again the shadow of the degrees, which is gone down in the sundial of Ahaz 10 degrees backward. So the sun returned 10 degrees, by which degrees it was gone down. The writing of Hezekiah, king of Judah, when he had been sick, and was recovered of his sickness. Now, this is an interesting thing. And remember now that when I read this account in 2 Kings 20, and then I read the account in Isaiah 38, and the accounts are not word for word identical. That is not a contradiction in the Bible. There are men that you could hear on the radio and they'd say, see, here's a contradiction. Every passage should read exactly the same. Well, that's about as naive as demanding that two men that saw the same car wreck, but one saw it from the southbound side of the road and the other one saw it from the northbound side of the road. They saw the same accident, but they saw the accident from two different sides. They're going to explain the same accident. Their story, their recounting of the events is going to be significantly the same, but it's not going to be identical, because obviously the man standing on the south side of the road saw things that the man standing on the north side of the road did not see. The man standing on the north side of the road obviously saw things from his perspective that the man on the south side of the road did not see. It's interesting that in this passage, in Isaiah's recounting, that the area of negotiation concerning the sign is never addressed or dealt with. You remember back in 2 Kings 20 when when Hezekiah asked for a sign, what sign will I have from the Lord that he's going to heal me and in 3 days I'm going to go up to the temple? What sign from the Lord am I going to have? And Isaiah said, the sign concerning the sundial. It'll either go forward or backward by 10 degrees. Hezekiah replied, it's a simple thing for the sundial to go forward 10 degrees. Why, that'll happen just in the normal course of the rotation of the earth. I want the sundial to go backward by 10 degrees, and that is precisely what the Lord did. I do believe that, by the way, and it's my estimation that God turned the earth backward on its axis. God is the creator of the heaven and the earth. Why should it be a difficult thing for the God who created the heavens and the earth to manipulate the heavens and the earth, to rotate the earth backward on its axis and still override and overrule in the matter of the laws of physics? I don't think that would have been a difficult thing for God to have done at all. In the recounting I have in this passage, it's interesting to me that we don't have anything said concerning the negotiation. He says, behold, and this sign shall be a sign unto thee from the Lord, that the Lord will do this thing that he hath spoken. He's going to heal you, and he's also going to defend the city of Judah. That he has spoken, behold, I will bring again the shadow of degrees, which is gone down the sundial of Ahaz 10 degrees backward. So the sun returned 10 degrees, by which degrees it was gone down. So God brought the sundial backward by 10 degrees. Now, although the negotiation and the arrangements and the discussion that brought Isaiah and Hezekiah to the point of the sundial backing up are not recounted here, what happened ultimately in 2 Kings 20 is recorded here just exactly as it transpired. The writing of Hezekiah, king of Judah, when he had been sick and was recovered of his sickness. I said, in the cutting off of my days I shall go to the gates of the grave. I am deprived of the residue of my years. Now, we don't find this dealt with in 2 Kings at all. This matter is never touched on in 2 Kings. But this is Hezekiah's prayer, or Hezekiah's acknowledgement, or Hezekiah's recounting of what transpired. The record is not recorded there, but it is recorded here. The writing of Hezekiah, king of Judah. This is what he wrote down concerning the matter of his sickness and his recovery. The writing of Hezekiah, king of Judah, when he had been sick and was recovered of his sickness. So the miracle of Hezekiah's recovery is exactly as God, through the prophet Isaiah, said it would be. This happened when he was recovered. Number one, I said, in the cutting off of my days, I shall go to the grave, go to the gates of the grave. I am deprived of the residue of my years. The matter of death is sure and certain. And when one dies, you can say without any hesitancy that their days have been cut off. They have now died. Their days are no more. My dad died at the age of 62, which in my estimation is very young to die. Very, very young to die. And at 62 years of age, when my dad passed away, my dad never had another birthday. My dad, though now has been dead since 2006, about 15 years my dad has been dead now, and soon will be 20 years. More than 15 years my dad has been dead. But my dad has never celebrated another birthday. The cutting off of my days, that's why we say when somebody died, they died at the age of 80, they died at the age of 75, they died at the age of 85. That's how many years or how many days they were able to accumulate in the course of their life. But when they die, they are deprived of the residue of their years. They celebrate no more birthdays. Now we have an anniversary of their birth, and I recognize that with my grandfather. Every May on the Bright Spot Hour, we remember his birth. He was born in 1914, more than 100 years ago. And we celebrate the anniversary of his birth on the radio, but we don't have any more birthdays for my grandfather. No one has ever baked a birthday cake for my grandfather or baked a birthday cake for my dad since my dad has passed away. I said, in the cutting off of my days, I shall go to the gates of the grave. I am deprived of the residue of my years. I said, secondly, I shall not see the Lord, even the Lord, in the land of the living. I shall behold man no more with the inhabitants of the world. Now, when this statement is made, I think there's something here that you and I need to understand, and I'll come back tomorrow and address this on the Bright Spot Hour tomorrow. He's not saying that I won't ever see the Lord. No, look at it in the context. I shall not see the Lord, even the Lord, in the land of the living. Now, you and I that are born-again believers have often seen the good hand of God and the blessing of God and the reality of God and the work of God in our midst. We have often seen the hand of God at work in the course of our lives. We have seen the Lord in the land of the living. But my dad, with all due respect to my dad has not seen the hand of God that I have witnessed in this world since my dad died. Since my dad has passed away, I've seen the good hand of God manifest on many occasions. I've seen the obvious blessing of God on many occasions. Now my dad is with the Lord in heaven. He's in heaven above, but he's not here on the earth. The only thing here on the earth is his body buried at Woodlawn Cemetery. And that's exactly what Hezekiah is saying in this passage. Now my time has gotten away from me on the program today. The Lord willing, tomorrow I'll pick back up at verse number 11, and I hope you'll be listening to the Bright Spot Hour at that time. Merry Christmas to each and every one of you.
Write Dr. Carver at Post Office Box 4, Greenville, South Carolina 296